up? Welcome to Set the Table episode 3, in which we talk about players, and mostly problem players. I am John, and with me my co-host is Jack.
How's it going, eh?
How's it going? We could do Bob and Doug McKenzie impressions.
Nobody knows Bob and Doug McKenzie. That's from like 100 years ago.
It's not 100 years. I'm 25 and I know it. God,
that's because
terrible.
Your parents are children of the 80s and they forced you to watch a bunch of 1980s stuff.
I don't know. Maybe that contributes positively. That's the random tip for today: is watch 80s movies.
Make your kids watch 80s movies. Yeah.
So this is Set the Table, a podcast brought to you in part by Red Hoodie Games, where Jack and I talk about running tabletop role-playing games well. Lots of people run tabletop games. Lots of people play RPGs, and still more and more people are asking, how do I do that? What do I do? How do I start? So far, we have talked about all of that. Where do you even begin stuff? We've talked about your first session, which is called Session 0, and we've talked about picking what system you want to play, what genre of tabletop role-play game you want to play. So at this point,
and we didn't do it. I mean, we did a fairly good job of kind of laying out the landscape, but that list in episode 2 was nowhere near exhaustive.
Oh no. So if you ever are curious, just go ahead and look for games yourself, right? Could do that.
Or listen to episode 2 and then complain at us that we didn't pick your favorite game.
Yeah, if we get enough complaints, we could do another episode where we talk about all of the forgotten systems.
Yeah, like Tunnels and Trolls.
Well, start the list.
Okay, forgotten systems.
So today we are talking about players, trouble players, metagamers, the min-maxers.
Hey, wait a minute.
What?
You skipped it again.
I didn't skip it.
You skipped it.
It's below, but we can move it.
Yeah, we should move it. Before we get rolling about talking about players, what did you play last week or in the 2 weeks since we recorded?
Well, I have played my D&D group has come back together, so we've gotten to get back into that. We are playing 5th edition. My party recently discovered the cause of lots of what they have been doing in the campaign thus far, and they got to talk to somebody and ask lots of questions. And now they are acting on a wealth of new information, including assaulting a demon village in the mountains. Did you play D&D this week? No, you didn't.
We did not. So my group has been taking a break. Our DM has been doing an amazing job of making every single session, even through the holidays, which is very challenging for a dungeon master. And he kind of wanted to have a break.
How long has your group been running?
4 years.
Oh wow, okay. I'm at a year and a half, and I'm pretty proud thus far.
Yeah, I joined the group two years ago, and it had already been running for 2 years when I joined in.
Nice.
But so he wanted a little bit of a break, and I kickstarted the Alien RPG from Free League Publishing, and I was dying to give it a try. And a bunch of the other folks in my group are big Ridley Scott fans, and they love the Alien franchise. So we played we called it a one-off. It turned into a two-off. Basically, it was 2 sessions. We play about Monday nights for 3 hours. So it was about 5.5 hours of playtime, and we played the cinematic version of the game. The game comes in 2 flavors: campaign for long adventures, and then cinematic for that I want to feel like I'm a character in an alien movie, and gosh, did it. We played over Roll20. I got some background music from the original score, or actually, I found some Creative Commons licensed music that was named after some of the places in the Alien franchise, and it was sufficiently moody and creepy, and it really set a really good tone. Everyone died by the end of the session. Everyone died but one character, two characters. Um,
A
the
character and a half.
a character and a half, right? Because there was one character was playing a synthetic, a robot, an android, who didn't let any of the other party members know he was an android. Of course, when the xenomorph tried to tear him in half, yeah, that kind of let the cat out of the bag. It's like, why are you just got doused with acid? Why aren't you melting? Oh, because you're made out of plastic. Hooray! But it was very, yeah. The um, when we talk about how to set up a game, there's a whole chapter in the Free League publishing book about pacing and how to run a cinematic campaign to make it feel like a movie. And I followed their directions just to see how good they were, and it did. It felt like an Aliens movie. There was some downtime when the party was walking around and we don't really know what's going on and everything's really quiet and we're kind of bored, and then all of a sudden, hey, there's a face hugger crawling over the console that you're typing on. You make a panic roll, and the that whole stress and panic system mechanic really fed into the game. By the end of the game, everyone was stressed out. Not everyone, but a lot of people were panicking right at the wrong time, and that caused a lot of deaths and destruction. And it's just like the original Alien movie, as the crew, the scene where Parker and Lambert are getting coolant, and Lambert just freezes and she's staring at the alien, and everyone's yelling, Lambert, get out of the way, like, move, do something, why are you staring at that alien? And we had a scene like that in the game, didn't we?
Did. That was when I fell catatonic upon the two xenomorphs hopping down before we got on the ship. So I played in this as well. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning of session 2. And I played Morgan Hirsch, a retired Marine, an ex-Marine, who now works as a maintenance person.
Yeah.
And right at the end there, I'd been the gunner the whole time, so I was the guy shooting away. People would hand the guns to me. I metagamed a little bit, and we can talk about that a little later. And at the end, after being a hotshot Xeno Slayer, I rolled my panic and got to be catatonic. And so I was on the floor, staring into nothingness while my party was murdered around me. So that was good. That was a lot of fun.
Yep. And had we continued to play, of course, that's the cinematic version, so that game is over. Those were all pre-generated characters anyway. But had we played another session, you would have started the session with a severe mental trauma.
Right.
Because of the level of stress that poor Gunny Hirsch experienced, and falling catatonic while all these other people are dying around him. You would start the session by rolling on the mental trauma table, and you would have adopted that as part of your role play. So either a phobia, an addiction.
Right. We ended up going with phonophobia, the fear of
Phonophobia.
loud sounds. So
Yeah.
I was jumpy in the ship but the android stayed half alive enough to get us out.
Yep. So Monday, I think we're going back to D&D.
Excellent.
I go back to my scary Smurf Neblin bard who terrorizes people with her words of terror and fear spell.
She's pretty good.
She's very scary.
I like her. So, we're talking. So I mentioned metagaming, and metagamers aren't necessarily trouble players until they are. So,
well, it depends on your group, right? I mean, so we should define metagamer for those that don't know what that is, right?
I don't want to. I don't want to jump that far. I was
Oh,
just using
I'm
that as a
sorry.
segue. It's okay.
Or do we just want to talk about troubled players in general?
Well, we should talk about finding players first. We talked a little bit about it in episode 1, but I don't know that we talked about it enough.
Okay.
At least in terms of more specific resources, right? So, where can people go to find like tabletop games online?
So do you want to do online or in person or both?
We'll do both, but I think online is
Start with
probably more
online.
accessible to people.
So online, if you play in using one of the platforms like Roll20 or Astral, they usually have a looking for players system. So you can go right to roll20.com.net. Roll20.
It's .com.
I just put in Roll20 in Google and it goes.
Yep, roll20.com.
And you can search for a game. And there are GMs running games that are open to the public, and you can just I want to play sci-fi, I want to play western, I want to play I'll do it right now just for giggles.
Sure.
I'll go to Roll20.
So while you're doing that, you can also go to reddit.com/r/LFG. LFG stands for looking for group, and you will be able to find people. Either you can post and look for a game, or scroll and look for somebody looking for somebody to join a game. And that is all sorts of tabletop RPGs, although a majority of it is 5e that I've seen.
So I'm on the Roll20 website, and I smushed the join a game button, and I got a friendly form that asks me what kind of game I want to join.
A friendly form, eh?
A friendly form, and there's 3 check boxes. Only find games that welcome new players. Only find games that are free to play, and then show games with mature content. And then when you click on the play any of these games, it is the list of game genres. It's basically our episode 2, but they didn't forget anybody. It scrolls on and on and on.
It is roll20.net.
So D&D, there's D&D on here, 3.5, 4e, 5e, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Dungeon Eclipse Phase, which is a sci-fi game, Fate, the AGE system, so that's your Blue Rose, Dragon Age, the Fiasco, GURPS, like I'm halfway down, there's Harry Potter, Marvel Heroes, Munchkin roleplay game, Pokemon roleplay game, Pathfinder. Right. Yeah, I'm just scrolling. I'm still scrolling. I'm going to stop scrolling.
All right.
I'm going to look for vampire games.
There are pickup games, too, that update every 30 seconds.
On the right-hand side.
Happening tonight. In like 28 minutes, I could play D&D.
5th edition.
Yep.
And I picked the Vampire the Werewolf, and there is a Vampire the Werewolf game that's welcoming new players, and they play again Friday the 31st. And it's text only, so it tells you all about it. So online resources, there's a lot of places to play. There's also RPG Geek, so the Board Game Geek website is kind of the mecca, the holy grail of board game websites. They have a sister site called RPG Geek, and that's a place where you can go and do a looking for group to find both online and in-person games.
Excellent. Speaking of in-person games, where do you go to find a game if you want to play in person, which is indisputably better than playing online?
Go to your friendly local game store. Go there. Go there. I love FLGSs. Absolutely love them. I wish there were more of them. It's a that sector of the retail business is a hard business to be in. Those stores need patronage to stay active and running. So go to your FLGS. Please, please, please.
Friendly local game store. That's the place to be.
And then the other place is the Board Game Role-Play Game Cafe. So there's one in my home away from home in Dayton, Ohio called D20. It is a bar, right? They serve draft beer, and one side of the room is a whole bunch of board games.
Nice.
You buy a beer, you sit down, and you can pull Settlers of Catan off the shelf or Carcassonne and just play the game.
Excellent.
The other side of the room is comfy chairs, sofas, coffee tables, and a bookcase full of role-play game rule books. You have to bring your own dice, but and there's every time I've been in there hasn't been a cover. Like they don't obviously don't want you to bring in your own food and beverages. But it's not like okay, you got to buy a beer every hour while you're sitting here playing games and stuff. I've bought a beer and sat there for 3 hours, I think, playing a game, one-player game, and it was just wicked chill and relax.
Nice.
There is one of those in Burlington, Vermont that just opened up.
Oh, very cool.
I don't know its name. I was supposed to check it out last 2 weekends ago, and I never did. So
well, that's all right. There's
sometime in February.
There's probably one during in a town or city near you. So look for that.
Yes, board game cafes. They're becoming very, very popular.
And then the last one that I think we want to mention is play with your family and friends. I mean, if they haven't ever played before, this is a great way for you to be able to just spend some time with people that you like hanging out with.
Or manufacture them. Make your children play.
Yes. Make friends responsibly.
Manufacture PCs responsibly.
So put that on a t-shirt. Somebody write that one down.
Which one?
Manufacture your PCs responsibly.
Yeah.
So we started to segue by talking about meta players, metagamers.
Metagamers, yeah.
And the bulk of tonight's episode is going to be trouble players and sort of how you can better manage the people at your table. So a trouble player, in short, is someone who causes trouble, right? Duh. But is not always a problem. It's something that can be fun if everyone at the table is on board with their shenanigans. But you want to just watch it so that it doesn't develop into something that is impeding the fun of the game. It could be something as small and benign as somebody who shows up 10-15 minutes late to every section, or something else smaller, like they're on their phone a lot and you have to cue them to have them pay attention. Or it can be more moderately dangerous things like metagaming, jokesters, to potentially really serious stuff that you might have to deal with, like members or players like sexually harassing another player, or somebody who is too aggressively threatening and takes the game too seriously. Um, Somebody who might want to hurt other people in your group, like legitimate real life threats. Um, so let's start on the lighter end of that. And we'll start about the easiest thing, perhaps the easiest thing to deal with. Uh, what if someone's late? I show up 15 minutes late to Alien. What happens? I didn't, by the way. I
You
was on time.
you're
But
dead.
you're dead?
You're dead. You're
Oh
dead.
wow.
Oh, sorry, the xenomorph was chasing us, and since you weren't here, you didn't say I'm running away, so you're dead. No,
Oh
I'm
man.
I'm teasing. Um,
I mean, you could in Alien though.
it depends on the it depends on the so a lot of like you were saying at the beginning, trouble player, and I'm doing the air quotes here, trouble players, um, create trouble. They're a negative when they are impeding the group.
Yes.
Right? So if you have a player who's always late, 10 minutes late, 10, 50 minutes late, they're always late, it just, that character is just going to go along with the group because their player's not paying attention, right?
Sure. Sure.
Um, and that's like, hey, we can go down the left-hand passage where we can hear running water, or we can go down the right-hand passage where we just heard someone scream. Okay, we're going to take a vote. Well, you know,
Jason.
Dr. Sig is Dr. Sig's player isn't with us. So Dr. Sig doesn't get a vote. She just follows along with the group. Um, and I mean the other thing too is you could ask. That's a lot
Right.
of a lot of this, like, how do you deal with a troubled player or a trouble player, um, is going to be communication. Communicate with the person and see, hey, we are already at 6. Well, I get out of work at 5:30, and by the time I get home and change and let my dog out, it's 6:10. And it's like, okay, so how about we back up to 6:20? Like, we'll start at 6:20.
Yeah.
Uh, or we'll start at 6:30. Like, whatever that balance between getting people there on time. Of course, there are people who are just, you tell them to show up at you have that play. I tell that player to show up at 5:30 because I know they're not really going to be there until 6. Because if I told them 6, they'd be there at 6:30. If I told them 7, they'd be there at 10.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
I had somebody who was showing up late when we started playing, and I just asked him about it. And he was like, I can't get home before then. Like it takes me a half an hour to walk from here to there, and I can't do it. So we just pushed the session back 15 minutes. Problem
Yep.
solved.
Problem solved.
Um, the in-game, I like the in-game repercussions as a potential solution for that.
Yeah.
Um, your character was asleep at the inn and the rest of your party left that morning, and now you have to find them. Creates something interesting if it's like a one-time thing and it's not bothersome. But if it starts to become more bothersome, detrimenting the fun of the group, do they really want to play? You can write a cool way for them to back out if they're like, hey, I've just got too much going on right now. The answer to all of these is going to be talk to them about it.
More or less.
Almost all of them, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be talk to them or invite them to play somewhere else.
Sure.
I mean, that's the extreme. That's the far extreme, right? A lot of your troubling players or troubled behaviors of players you're going to address with communication, And then once you've communicated, you can do things like change the nature of the game. Maybe they don't enjoy the character that they're playing, and that's why they're late. It's like, yeah, I really thought I wanted to play a gunslinger, but there are no magic pistols in our realm, and we're fighting ghosts, and I just, I'm range DPS, and I'm throwing half damage at every single thing I'm shooting at, and I'm just not having a good time, and the party's mad at me, and I don't want to role play that anymore. I want to be more effective as a member of the group.
Totally.
Right. So.
So, what about phones? Because you've talked about this one before, for sure.
Yeah. I play a lot online, so I can't see if people are using their phones or not.
They are.
When I play live, I'm not a big fan of phones, but I'm also not like a phone, like you have to put your phone in a basket, or if you touch your phone, and again, that's a balancing act, because if folks are okay, you guys are pre-flighting the spaceship and the aliens are chasing you and somebody's welding the door shut, and oh my gosh, a face hugger has dropped out of the vent on the person running the welder, and three people look up from their phone and go, oh, are we in combat now? That I get a little like,
come on, gang.
Yeah, as the game mother, and I love that in Alien it's mother, you're the mother. Um, again, I like to solve things in game. So that one face hugger that it says in the module becomes 3.
Nice.
Right. They weren't paying attention when I read that one face hugger dropped down, so maybe I can get away by saying, so the 3 face huggers, and if someone's paying attention, they go, wait a minute, you said 1, then it's like, okay, maybe it's 1, maybe it's 3. You saw this amorphous blob drop down from the ceiling.
Make an
but
observation roll.
I like to handle things in the game to try and modify behaviors outside the game.
Sure.
That's as a GM, that's kind of where I head to.
I could have made more use of that welding torch. It's beyond us now.
Yep.
So we talked about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was. We talked about late players.
Yep.
And at the beginning of this, we kept throwing around this meta gamer noun. Do you want to move there next? Let me check my show notes.
Yeah, let's do it. So we've said metagamer a couple times now. We should define that.
Yes.
A metagamer is someone who thinks about the game as if they were not in the world as their character. They think about the game as the player, not as the character. So, for instance,
Mr. GM, I just cut this orc on a scale of 1 to 17. How much damage? How damaged does he look? Like if he was hurt, right? How many hit points damage did right? I just rolled the dice, and I rolled 6 points of damage, right? So on a scale of 1, and I know he's a 2-hit dice monster, so he can't have more than 17 hit points or 18 hit points. So on a scale of 1 to 18, how hurt does he look? That's metagame, right?
Yeah.
And that's not egregious metagaming, but that's where it starts, right?
Right. So a wizard, if the character, the wizard, doesn't know that the fireball spell does the damage that it, like how much damage a fireball does, like you said, a fighter slashes an orc, they don't know how hurt that orc feels. They just sort of do all of that. And so a metagamer can be it can be comical like that, right? If you know the creature you're fighting has 12 hit points, hey, on a scale of 1 to 12, nyuk nyuk nyuk. I imagine DMs probably just won't answer that, right?
It depends. I usually don't answer that.
I
Uh,
try to answer it with descriptors of observational information that the character would be able
right.
to see and notice.
There,
Like
there's a
he's
there is a
breathing.
there's a welt on the side of his face, and he's got ragged breathing, or
Yeah.
you can see armor oozing out from under his, or blood oozing out from under his armor. Uh,
Armor oozing out from under his blood.
yeah, that's well, he's really hurt, right? The clone has one less arm, right?
Yep.
That kind of stuff. Um, and the other thing with metagaming too, and this is one thing, this is one of the reasons I don't necessarily, fifth edition isn't my one of my favorite systems, is that there are other role play game systems where combat is fast, right? I'm thinking Savage Worlds, right? You have your initiative card. They use a deck of playing cards for initiative. You know, everyone flips their card over. I know when I'm going to fight. I get to do one thing, and when it's my turn, I have to say the one thing that I'm doing. Right?
Sure.
I'm shooting. I'm swinging my sword. I'm ducking for cover. I'm running away. Um, where in fifth edition, right, I've got free actions and bonus actions, and when it's not my turn and I'm playing fifth edition, I metagame. I'll cop to it, right? I've got scratch paper right in front of me, and I'm looking through and I'm going, okay, that's an action, that's a free action, that's a bonus action. I can do this, this, and this on this turn. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? I'm where in a combat round is a span of 6 seconds, and things are supposed to be happening one right after the other, right? The
Right.
barbarian swung his axe, the druid's casting a spell, my bard is gonna play a song to heal everybody. It's boom 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 boom. And unfortunately, um, there's a there's a trope or a meme out there where, a 7-day walk in Dungeons and Dragons takes 10 minutes, and a 7-minute fight takes 3 sessions.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, there's sometimes you just can't avoid it. You can't avoid the metagaming.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean, sometimes it's fine. Like when you said like planning out your turn ahead of time, that's okay. Like that's what you would be doing mentally in those 6 seconds.
Right. I think where I start to it loses the fun for me is when on my turn or on other people's turn, it becomes a group. Like,
Yep.
okay, if the barbarian swings his axe, that'll and distracts the orc, the druid can start casting the vine, vine whip or whatever to try and grapple the orc, and then okay, now you cast your healing spell, right?
Right.
You if you're in a, not that people walk around looking to get into fist fights in bars, but if you've ever been in a fight in real life, even with a group of people, you're not coordinating like
Like
every
that.
single motion, right?
Right.
That guy's swinging, I'm ducking. I've got an opening, I'm punching. Like it's very kind of fast and fluid. And there are role play game systems that make that happen.
Like what, for instance?
So,
Just one. Pick one.
Paranoia.
Okay.
The new Paranoia has a deck of cards. So you are given action cards with gear and combat actions, and when it's time to fight, everyone puts a card face down, and it's 1, 2, 3, flip up,
Nice.
right? And so then there isn't any of this. Oh, you killed him. Well, I don't want to punch him, or I don't want to shoot at him and waste ammo. Well, you
It
wouldn't.
it happened.
It
You're all
happened,
doing it
right?
at
You're
once.
all doing it at once. Flip the card, see what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's a really neat mechanic for that kind of stuff.
All right. I agree that I also don't like that when the party is trying to break something down and it's like, dude, And so this is something as a DM that you can do. You can just tell people to stop. Like, hey, the goblin is swinging at you. There's another one in the trees knocking an arrow. You can't really discuss what spell you want to use. You just have to pick one. And
Yeah.
if people aren't responsive to that, you can say something as bluntly as, okay, the archer gets his turn. Be like, wait, no, it was my turn. It's like, you can't wait 20 seconds in real life for something that would take, or even 2 minutes in real life for something that is supposed to happen within the span of 6 seconds, effectively at the same time as everything else. So
Uh,
it's okay to just stop it.
I know DMs who have resorted to a 1 minute egg timer.
Ooh.
The little sand, right? Like we've got a
Yeah,
couple that have come with board games that have a time
totally.
element, or a phone. This is one place where using your phone is valid. You put a 1 minute. Okay, there's 1 minute on the clock. When that dings, your turn's over. Go.
So the opposite side of this, because metagaming is tricky like that, where
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not, is that last session near the end, one of my players, the rogue monk hybrid, who is the big stealthy of the group, hiked up a mountain ridge and scouted the demon village that they are planning to assail in order to recover books that were stolen from a royal library. Now, the rogue got a really good look, and she is bringing back valuable information to the group. At this point, where we ended the session, the party was going to camp for a long rest, and it's like early afternoon, so I kind of allowed it, where they'll wake up at about 10 p.m. to begin their infiltration. And not not this morning, but yesterday morning when I woke up, I had over 100 texts between two members of my group talking about how they wanted to deal with the village, given the information that there's a large bird demon who sort of looks over things and can see to the walkable entrance. The cliff that the rogue scouted is an 80-foot drop down into the village proper. There's a massive cave entrance that looks like it could have been a dragon's lair, and there are lesser demons carrying things in and out of the dark of the cave. Um, they know the situation, and I woke up to a ton of messages about how they want to handle it, which I'm okay with because they're not breaking anything. Their players are all at a campsite for a few hours talking about, hey, how are we going to get in here when there's hundreds of demons and we're only four people and two
So
paladins that are stronger than we know.
so they have shifted that, instead of doing that RP during the session, they've shifted the game to their phones in text messages.
Yeah, which
Absolutely.
I would call metagaming. It certainly breaks immersion because your paladin and your ranger aren't sitting there texting each other, but
Yeah, but they would be sitting by the fire talking and that kind of thing.
exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah.
very it's I don't know, it's heartwarming as a DM too.
And sometimes it's not bad.
Yeah, totally.
Because you might have a player who's unsure about a mechanic or a rule, right?
Yep. I
Uh,
will recommend at this juncture, if you don't have a D&D podcast that you're listening to, go check out There Will Be Dungeons. And in the first 20 plus episodes of that, one of the characters consistently has to ask questions, doesn't remember what to add to rolls, that sort of thing. And that's technically it's metagaming, but that's okay, right? You're a learning player, you have valid questions. Yeah.
so there, for me, there's a fine line between um, I'm new, I don't know what to do, right? And yeah, I'm sitting at the table, but I'm not really paying attention.
Right.
Right. So we didn't our in my Monday night group, we really don't have that problem. Everyone caught on really fast. If I take a fast action to aim my firearm, I get a +2 modifier when I roll my ranged combat roll. We didn't have to reiterate that over and over and over again, right? And I have played in places where, um, we'll call him Sleepy Dan. Sleepy Dan was. It's like, okay, it's your turn. So what can I do? Well, you're a ranger with a bow. You're 40 feet away from the goblins that we're fighting. What would you like to do? Can I run up to the goblins? You can. Would you like to do that? I don't know, right? And it just it kept it, and that was every single turn.
Oof.
What can I do? Well, you're a ranger with a bow and you're 40 feet away from the melee. Please fire an arrow. And at that point, as a GM, and I was a player in that game, as a fellow player, I'm wondering, is this guy having fun? Like, is he sitting at the table because he's lonely and he wants to sit at a table with other human beings? Is he mad that we didn't play the game he wanted to play and he's just kind of being a breaker? Because I don't see that. Maybe that's coming on in the show notes. The breaker. Yeah. But it's like, pay attention, right? Like I said, I always have a piece of scratch paper and a pencil and I'm taking notes. So that I can play my character correctly. Right.
Sure. So we could probably do a whole episode on metagaming, but let's not for this one. There are people at your table who are there, perhaps not the opposite of the Sleepy Dans, but these are the Jokey Jakes. That's what we'll call these guys. They are people who are there to laugh and make jokes, but not really engage with the story or the fantasy, and that can create problems. So here's the situation for you. You're in the king's court, and you're talking to a magistrate, and your bard says something like, I'm going to pants the magistrate. DM that situation.
Me?
Sure.
So, I'm a big believer in, if you say it, you do it.
Okay.
So a lot of jokey jakes will say stuff like that and go, oh, no. And so I'll say, nope, roll a stealth roll and then roll a sleight of hand check. And the guards see you approach the magistrate from behind and they slap you in irons.
Awesome.
And now we have a situation where a character did something that was socially inappropriate in the situation, and you have to deal with those consequences, right? And if he rolled awesome on the stealth roll and he rolled fantastic on the sleight of hand, the magistrate's pants are on the ground. and again, for me as a GM, I like to give my NPCs a little bit more depth. So if I'm a town magistrate and I have a good sense of humor, right?
Sure.
You know, I was a bard myself, and I was a practical joker as a young man, and that's a great. Sometimes I'll play that, like, that's a great joke. You really got me. This party, you're gonna go places because you've got this guy here, and he's. And other times, like, you know, it's the Dwarven High King.
And now his chain pants are on the stony floor.
and now this bard is gonna off with off with his hand. You're gonna lose your right hand, buddy.
Sure.
For such a slight. I mean, in some of those things will just completely ruin the game because it's so wildly out of character.
Right.
Again, I always try to connect things to real situations. So, and sometimes things are funny, right? I mean, we both love the movie Step Brothers, and they go to job interviews, and they're completely inappropriate in those job interviews, and it's funny to watch that in film,
Yes.
right? But if you're right, think I'm gonna now switch to a different movie, right? I'm Bilbo Baggins, and I'm taking the Arkenstone to the elf, and right.
And
What
John C. Reilly comes out of the jail cell.
Yeah, or it's like, sup, knife ears, I stole this rock for you. No, that's not the type of game that you're playing right now, and I apologize for the racial slur. But you wouldn't, right? Bilbo Baggins didn't walk up to the elves and say flippant things, right? It was a moment of gravitas. I've done this. I've betrayed my friend, and I want you to help me help him because I think he's off the rails. So, and joke, yeah, sure, jokey jokesters, they can make a game more fun.
Totally.
Right? And there are, again, we go back to talking about genres. There are games that encourage that. Right? We were just talking about Paranoia as a quick combat. Paranoia is a role play game, sci-fi role play game. It's a dark humor game. They encourage that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we were playing in a session, and one player grabbed another player. So, clone Jed 7 and clone Betty 3. So, or not Betty, it was Bobby. Bobby 3 and Jed 7. Jed 7 was gonna go down the hallway, and Bobby 3 said, "No, I don't want you to go down that hallway. I'm gonna grab him and pull him back the way I want to pull him."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm gonna hug him, and I'm gonna give him a smooch to distract him. It was jokey, right? I'm gonna smooch him. And of course, in Alpha Complex, the computer handles all reproduction through cloning. The act of procreation is treason. So both of those clones were assigned sexual harassment training, and they had to stop the current adventure they were on and find a computer terminal to take online sexual harassment training because they were touching each other inappropriately.
That is
and the
awesome.
computer saw it. And so that, I mean, it was jokey, and it made the game even more fun. I mean, when people were like, seriously? Yes, the elevator will not open. It's like, but we have to get to the thing. The cafeteria is flooding with strawberry dessert topping. We have to go fix that. It's like the elevator refuses to open until you show it your sexual harassment training completion certificate.
Man,
okay.
That's awesome.
But that made the game more fun and more light. So,
but that's so if you're playing Paranoia, you talk about that sort of at the beginning, like, hey, this is something you can expect.
Right.
And like we talked about on episode 1, this is something that is likely to happen in session 0. You want to clarify with your players, hey, how much nonsense do you guys want? How serious do you want this to be? Do you want it to be light? Do you want it to be dark? Those are things that you should talk about in addition to, do you want it to be fantasy or do you want it to be sci-fi?
Right. How many mom jokes are you allowed, and how many times can you say that's what she said? And you'll work all that out in session 1, because if you're playing a serious The One Ring and you're in Dol Guldur and you're sneaking around trying to find an orc,
I fart on the orc.
Yeah, it's like, no.
I'll pee down the stairs. That way, if there's any guards, they're going to have a really unpleasant walk coming up the stairs to kill us. No.
Okay, so
Time and a place.
You take off your armor, you set it aside because you obviously don't want urine in your armor, and you start peeing. The orc hears the urine coming down the stairs, and now you're fighting an orc with your pants down. -3 on your agility test. Right? Done.
Good work. Well handled.
Again, I like to, because sure, it's really easy to turn around and go, stop being a jerk. We're gonna retcon all the stuff you just said. Play the game.
Which isn't fun to do.
It's not fun to do. But again, sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that jokester, the jokey jakes, again, I've observed this over time. They are using humor to either cover up a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding of the source material.
Sometimes.
Right?
Sometimes they're just jerks.
Sometimes they're just jerks, but I've seen that, like in a vampire game. They're having their audience with the prince, and those of you that played Vampire the Masquerade know that that's you're in a nightclub, you're in a very nice hotel, you're someplace fancy. It's a non-combat area. You're not allowed to fight each other there. It's very political. There's certain ways to behave, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let a fart rip. It's like, your character wouldn't do that. Your character knows that that's going to create a number of repercussions. So no, right?
Sure.
But they're like, well, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do, and I haven't read the source book for this game, or yeah, I like vampires, but I'm not into the whole Vampire the Masquerade thing. So
right.
If I was Kiefer Sutherland in Lost Boys, I'd probably I don't know, order Chinese food. It's like,
okay,
what? Oh, okay. But yeah, so that's I think sometimes that people will use that humor to fill in for what their character doesn't know.
Yeah. So with all of these, talk to them, right?
Yeah.
If you want to try to assess it a little bit ahead of time, is it something that bothers you as the DM, GM, what have you? Or is it a problem that impedes the fun of the table? Because sometimes the metagamers and the jokesters can bring light and good to the table, and sometimes that can be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. But talk to that player, talk to the group.
And these are going to be different. This is going to be different if you are the new kid joining a group or playing in a store. Like if you're playing with strangers, people tend to exhibit these behaviors a little bit more often than these are the folks that I've gone to college with, or these are the folks that are my buddies that I see every Saturday at my FLGS, right?
Yeah.
And you have a deeper relationship with the people that you're playing with, right? So if you go to a convention or you go and go into a pickup game, you might be confronted more with a jokey jokester, or more with a metagamer, or more with a tactician, or an alpha gamer. We haven't talked about alpha gamers yet, but that might, right? It's a different level based on what type of game you're playing and where you're playing it.
I concur.
So do we want to hit up the alpha gamer before we get into harassment?
Is that a problem player, or is that
a
player personality?
Again, it's a player personality.
Because we can talk about other player personalities on another show.
If it's taken to an extreme, they become a troubled player.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So the alpha gamer is either the person who is wildly steeped in the mythos of the game that you're playing, or they have a deep love and knowledge of the mechanics, and they start running the table, right? So, okay, cool. There are 4 goblins just on the other side of the hill. Cavalier, I think you should run up there and throw down a challenge on the biggest goblin. Ranger, you're going to throw arrows. Cleric, get ready to hold an action to cast a spell. And I'm the wizard. I'm going to get ready with a fireball. Everybody good? Cool. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Go play a video
I'm the
game.
cavalier. I'm going to play my own character. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Or we're all playing drow characters. We're in Menzoberran's on, and we're going to talk to a matron mother. Well, you guys haven't read all the Bob Salvatore books, so let me do all of the talking. It's like, well, wait a minute. You're a barbarian, male. Shut up. A male wouldn't address a matron mother in that culture. So, no. The lady druid over there is in charge, so she gets to talk. And then maybe that character, maybe that player is another kind of troubled player, the wallflower, right? They don't talk.
Right.
Um,
Well, so all of these are more player personalities.
than troubled players.
Well, I think so. And I
Okay.
think metagamer goes in that category as well, because it really is 50-50, right? I alpha gamed during Alien at that second session.
Yeah.
I told Callie before I opened Discord, like, all right, I'm gonna run this game now. Like, we know what we're doing. I know
Yeah.
how it works. We need to get off this planet, and I'm the one who's killing aliens. Like, and I didn't get bad, I don't think.
No, and to be fair, um my group likes that group of players. They enjoy consensus, and they're not as assertive as other players, right?
Yep.
So Curse of Strahd, we spent an entire Monday putzing around in the town, and the DM was like, so you got this letter that says you got to go to this place. Yeah, but I really don't like my armor. Okay, well, since you don't like your armor, we'll all go with him to the blacksmith and see if we can help him out.
Yep.
I'm a paladin, but I really don't have a magical sword. Let's go shopping. So we literally spent 3 hours shopping and talking to NPCs and drinking and that kind of thing. And
Sometimes that can be fun and good, and people like that.
yes. And other times it gets old.
It does.
Yeah.
You need someone to step up and lead a little bit, which is,
Yeah.
I think, what I was trying. I certainly didn't know the classes, and with Alien, everyone's got a personal agenda and some hidden personal information that
Yes. Yeah.
you can't really tell them what they're good at as much as you can with, like, oh, the guy who's carrying the two-handed axe, yeah, we'll make him shove the rock. Like,
Right.
I think alpha gamers who get, you do this, you do that. All right, we've figured it all out. Just want a video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it, and if you're a really serious metagamer, that might be what you want too, where you want the numbers and you want to know, you want to have the certainty of, okay, I do 80 damage. If I upgrade this piece of gear, I'll do 84 damage. Okay, like that can be satisfying, but that's not tabletop role-playing games.
No, and sometimes even in the board game world, those people are a little annoying, like your Uncle Matt, who calculates probability of dice rolls for various board games using Excel and his massive math knowledge, and then it's like he's gonna pick the optimal move based on mathematics, and I just want to move the lion
I
character because he's cool.
I just want to trade for a sheep.
I'm gonna lose. Uh, okay,
um,
so we'll
so I,
move. Yeah, we can save those for types of players or player archetypes, like the wallflower, the alpha
so
gamer, the tactician.
while we're talking about it, because we can talk about it. Um, I think alpha gaming. I don't know if there's a label for it, but someone who takes lots of time at the table. And I have a player who was worried about that after uh, I think it was the second session that he was with us. He's playing a human bard. He is a charismatic person playing a charismatic character. So there's a little bit of ego fusion between player and character, and sometimes it can create quite a personality. And after the second session he was with us, he texted me after and was like, "Hey, I'm not taking up too much of the group's time, right? Like, I want other people to be able to talk." And I had to say to him, "No, no, no, no. This is a group of a barbarian who was raised in the mountains, a barbarian who is raised killing demons who has an intelligence of 7, a pixie who ran away from home who's kind of evil, and a young druid who is also a new player to the game and is sort of timid both in player and character. They need someone here to be speaking." So
Right.
that was okay. But there are the players sometimes who take up lots of time talking and orating and role playing beyond the point that other players want. And I don't know if that's an alpha gamer or not. Um, but it happens sometimes. Just talk to them. That's the fix there.
Yeah, I mean, the alpha gamer for me is the one who's telling other players how to play their character and what
Right.
they should do on their turn.
Yeah.
Um, what you've described, I usually call that person the spotlight hog
Okay. There
or,
you
or the attention hoe. Like, I've written 12 pages of backstory and I'm going to talk about all of it for the next 3 hours. And it's
go.
like, we really need to fight these goat men who are coming out of the castle because we can hear our friends from the village are yelling at us from the baskets. But I want to talk about my horse's armor, which I wove. Um, I hand wove this armor as I was learning to be a leather worker in my uncle's shop,
All right.
and
All right.
he had blue eyes.
We need
And
to move
right,
on with the show.
oh yeah, see, that's the spotlight hog. All right,
So we talked about Alpha Gamer, so we can talk about Wallflowers. You mentioned them.
yeah,
So this is players who don't really engage very much. And I have run a couple therapeutic gaming groups using tabletop role playing games for participants suffering from anxiety. And tabletop role playing games are an excellent way to get people to engage. And all it takes is a little bit of that DM finagling, like a party of male characters and one female, and you're all drow because that sounds really cool, but only the female character gets to talk. So that's sort of drastic for shoving a anxious person into a spotlight. But tools, scenarios, descriptions like that, and new players can sometimes
right.
wallflower a little bit
I'm
too.
not really sure what the rules are, and I don't want to look silly, so I'm not going to ask to.
Yeah.
Can I do a insight check to see if they're lying? Yes, you certainly can.
And this is sometimes where having a metagamer is handy because they might be able to help this person. And if they do have knowledge of their class, they can remind them of things that they've forgotten from time to time. And this happened with Callie, who is playing the druid in my group. And for the first couple of months, she was, "I don't really know." And now she is into it. So I think that TTRPGs naturally sort of pull the flowers off the wall.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So now do we want to jump down into harassment or harassment?
Yeah. So
Which one? Harassment first or harassment?
both at the same time.
Very good.
So less fun problems to solve are things that are potentially damaging, threatening to real life. Stuff that happens in the game is kind of okay, but even there are times where things get to go too far.
There's right. There are times in the game when people will take things too far, or they will create situations that exceed the thresholds you've established during session one, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the farmer's daughter wasted, and I'm gonna bang her. I apologize for the image there, but we're obviously talking about non-consensual sex in a game,
Yep.
right? Um, some groups are okay with that, and many groups are like, you know what? No,
Nope.
sorry, it's not going to happen. Um, I was
And
reading an article. I think it was on Reddit. It might have been. It might have been on RPG Geek, where they were playing in a friendly local game store, and new person sits down. They're playing an evil character, and they want to seduce one of the other players, and the other player's like, man, that's really not the kind of game we're playing. I'm not down for that. Like, we really don't want to play that.
right.
And they just kept pushing it. So the GM handled it, I thought, very, very well. Um, the the rest of the party were like, you know what, buddy, we're not partying with you, rogue. You can stay here in the inn. And the rogue was like, fine, I'll spend a night in the inn. Um, and the DM had a band of Randy Dwarven miners show up and get really drunk and decide that that rogue looked like a lady and they were going to show her a good time.
Wow.
And he went through a group rape on the character who was trying to rape another player.
That is not how I would solve that.
And it was and again, that created a long, huge discussion about setting limits at the table and how to deal with aggressive players. And because that player was just like, I'm not playing. He ripped up his character sheet. I'm not playing anymore.
All right. Yeah.
So right, that's like,
Those
you're
are
being a jerk, and I'm just going to turn around and be a jerk right back to you to see, here, how do you like it? How do you like it? And it's like,
no.
I don't know if I would have gone that far.
No.
I think the local constabulary would have shown up and taken this person away and been like, look, your character's been escorted to the town stockade. Why don't you find another table to play at? Like, your character's out of this game.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I would handle out of game. That would be okay, that you the player need to take a step away and
Yeah.
decide if this is something that you can participate in. I think that solutions to jokers, alpha gamers, metagamers can be in game, can be sort of comedic and light, but I would deal with this more sternly, I guess.
This is kind of a direct engagement, like,
Yeah.
human being. Okay, yep, we've got these miniatures on the table and the dice and the character sheets, and we're all imagining all these things. But break, I need to talk to you, John. We agreed in session 0, no murdering children. So yes, there is a witness to the crime. It's a 7-year-old boy. No, I'm not going to allow you to murder the NPC, this 7-year-old NPC.
Yeah.
Right? We agreed. Not going to happen. Find a different way, or let's change the story, or let's do something different. But
Find a different table.
But yeah, that stuff is you want to, and again, be professional, right?
Yeah.
Try to take emotion. Like, I always go back to I love. I mean, it's a little pedantic, but I'll take notes from session 0 and kind of treat that like a contract. Like, okay, no murdering children, right? No forcible, no non-consensual sex, uh, no death, no player versus player combat. Like here, this is what we've agreed to. So I always kind of
No phones at the table.
phones at the table, um, whatever those things are. Like, okay, break. We agreed when we started playing this game, you wouldn't do this. I need you to stop what you're doing.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
right. And sometimes people get caught up in the game and they I don't want to make excuses for crap heads, but
Right.
you this is what would happen, and yes, I'm a drow female. I'm going to whip this male and then force him to do horrible things. It's like, okay, in our session 0, we said no non-consensual this. Let's just fade to black, right? Everybody at
Sure.
the table good with that? This is happening. It's awful. It's horrible. We don't want to see it. Cut to commercial,
Yeah, you can
and
do that too.
and we cut back.
If that's something
Um,
that is okay for the story, then I think the cut to black is a solid solution.
yeah,
When
but
it
if it's active harassment, then it's nah. And that's hard. That you're fired. Get out. That's yeah. We're joking around on a podcast. You're fired. You're done. But those are hard conversations to have, right?
absolutely.
They really are. But the 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 downside, the risk, the problem of not having those conversations is that everybody else at the table starts having a really bad time, right? And then
You
you
might have a bad time.
you are having a really bad time and you reinforce that behavior. The harasser goes, everybody's sitting here and taking it. I'm just going to keep dishing it out.
Right.
And you're going to wind up just not playing the game. You either get rid of the one bad egg or you just quit the whole
Ruin
thing.
the game, yeah.
Yeah.
So I saved a sort of a fun one for last. And you wanted to talk about breakers too. I think I grouped these together. Don't know if that's true.
Yeah. So a breaker is someone who's just looking to break the game. Sometimes they're an alpha gamer. Sometimes they're a meta gamer. Um,
Sometimes they're ambivalent.
Sometimes they're ambivalent. They don't really care that they're there. They got dragged there by their friend or their significant other. They wanted to play Paranoia, and everybody else wants to play Call of Cthulhu. And right, their ride isn't going to be there for another 2 hours, so they can sit in the corner and do nothing for 2 hours, or play in your Paranoia game. But they're not. They're there to break it.
Yep.
Right. So they'll use all of these tactics to just do stupid. Okay. Um, I'm gonna go up and punch the goblin. You have a sword. Like, we've been fighting for 3 rounds, and you now you're gonna punch the goblin. Okay.
I have a personal example for this one.
Oh, okay.
Please don't hate me for talking about it.
I'll try not to.
At one point in a Vampire the Masquerade game, we started speaking to a fae that my character, that I, John the player, did not want to interact with or deal with because I was playing vampires and I didn't want fairies in it. So I tried to escape from the Camarilla, the sort of American group of vampires from that mythos, to Canada, where I could join the Sabbat, which is the anarchist group. And I am a vampire, so I am undead and relatively immortal. So I walked on the bottom of Lake Champlain to Canada, and I that was the That was the last session of that we played.
That was the last session of that we played. I wonder why that is.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
well, that was a breaker, right? Like, oh,
Right, but we
I'm
didn't
gonna
handle that well. I
no,
was whatever, 14,
right.
but yeah, that's a breaker.
That's a breaker. Like, hey, we're gonna do this thing. Well, according to the rules, I can walk. I don't have to
I don't have to
breathe,
breathe.
and as long as I stay out of sunlight, I'll be fine. So I'm gonna go to the bottom of a really deep lake and just walk along the bottom, a la Pirates of the Caribbean. Gents, take a walk. Um, but yeah, and that was like okay, and again, so as a storyteller, when I saw that, and it's like this game is just going completely off the rails, they don't want to play like that,
Yeah.
and that's what I took away from that is like, and that, I think that was like 5 or 6 sessions in, and
No.
so it's like
No. We had played a
no,
little more than that.
okay,
Maybe like 10,
but
15.
it was like it's like yeah, I think maybe we should find a different thing to do,
Yep.
and wasn't mad. I don't obviously I don't hate you for
Right,
that,
right. No, yeah. Um I liked the game. I just didn't like the fairy, dude.
right? And I was just trying to mix it up other than just vampire, vampire, vampire.
Yeah.
And there might be werewolves in the woods. Don't go in the woods.
Yeah. That's all right though.
Yeah.
The
But yeah,
fun
that's your breaker. And then you got murder hobos on here.
Yeah. So Murder Hobo is the not so endearing name for a player who just wants to kill people or solve problems by just killing people. So oh, let's just kill the kid. He witnessed the crime, we'll just kill him. Or it could be, so that's more of a player, like you mentioned, that's a player acting out more than a character acting out.
Right.
And people who enjoy playing murder hobos tend to build that into their characters. So I'm a chaotic neutral halfling wizard, and this shopkeeper isn't haggling with me. Everyone from my village haggled. I'm gonna fireball the shopkeeper. Like, okay,
You're gonna fireball the shopkeeper because he wouldn't haggle with you.
you're
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of identify what the cause of that is.
Now
Like,
there are games that encourage that behavior.
oh,
Again, right? So there Munchkin, Munchkin role play game encourages that behavior. Um,
yes,
Dungeon Crawl Classics, many of the DCC adventures are straight up dungeon crawls. Like I'm going into a cave, everything in this cave is evil, and I'm going to kill them and take their stuff and move to the next room and kill whoever's in the room and take their stuff and move
and
to the
take
next
their
room.
stuff.
Um, and so there are, I think if you have players who are in that murder hobo modality, pick the right. Don't pick a fifth edition D&D module that has a lot of social interaction and puzzles and problem solving,
Yeah,
right? Unless the problem solving can be done with the pointy end of a sword, right?
you can.
Pick the as the DM, pick the right adventure to fit your murder hobo group. Now, if you decided to play a game and you've got one murder hobo in the group, um, again, you can have that conversation out of character and say, look, I know you like to play the murder hobo, but we're playing Skull and Shackles. You've been press ganged onto a pirate ship. You have no weapons. You're level 1, and every pirate around you is level 7. If you start something, they're just going to kill you, and you get to roll a new character tomorrow for the next session.
Yep.
So tone it down,
And you can
right?
do that, right? So give.
You the player tone it down, or you do the in-game, right?
Yeah, you murdered that shopkeeper. The guards are gonna come and arrest you, and you're gonna be hanged for destruction of a public building and
Right.
murder.
You have started a fire in a town built primarily out of timbers.
Big womps.
Yes. And so, right, whatever the adventure was, we now have an episode of Law and Order, Faerun, and you've got to defend yourself as to why you decided to kill this guy because he wouldn't give you 5% off.
Right. Which you could do if you are playing in a group at a law school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. I like the in-game consequences for dealing with murder hobos, where oh, you're gonna be hanged. It gives that player an opportunity to get out of their character and roll a new one that hopefully their character doesn't want to do those things.
Right.
Or if the whole party wants to jump on board with that, everybody could save them at the hanging, a la Pirates of the Caribbean, and
But then
become
we mix in, because you've got
outlaws.
alignments in your description here, and we haven't talked about alignment, right? I mean,
Sure.
if you are a lawful good character, right?
Hmm.
I as a DM, I am a jerkwad when it comes to LGs,
Yeah.
right? Uh, If if you are if you are in a town, you are not going to start a fight. Period. Dot. You you
Period. Dot.
we're not gonna. I'm gonna. That the shopkeeper is not giving me a good deal. I'm gonna punch him in the nose. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Assault is a crime. You're a lawful good character. You wouldn't hurt another person, and you want to follow the law. Punching someone in the nose, no bueno.
Yeah.
Now, neutral good character, same thing. If you've got a G in your
Mm,
alignment, right, you are going to be nice to people, right?
yes. Yeah.
People.
So
You're
so the
not going to be nice to goblins and orcs and demons and ghosts, right? Chaotic evil characters are kind of, that's fair game for you to beat them up and take their stuff. But even, and I've done this a long time ago, a lawful good character, if you roll a break test, a psychological break test, and they start fleeing, combat's over,
hmm,
right? I'm fighting 6 orcs. We've knocked 2 unconscious. We've killed 1. Right. That's 50% of the opposing force has been neutralized. I'm gonna roll their morale. Yep, they drop their stuff and run away.
yep.
And okay, so we're out of combat. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I've still got an arrow knocked. I'm gonna get one as he's running. No, you're not. You're chaotic good. You're not going to kill another creature that's fleeing.
So we could probably do a whole episode on alignment,
Yes,
but
we should. We should do an episode on alignment.
but potentially, um, I think one of
Because
the
I
big
think you and I have disagreements about alignment.
Yep. All right. Put it there at the bottom for a future episode alignment.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm gonna say it because it's stuck in my brain. If you were talking about a lawful good character not punching that shopkeeper in the face, a neutral good character who witnesses a smelly oyster merchant on the docks spit into the face of a little girl might punch that guy.
Sure. You
So
might. You
he
might.
might.
You might.
So no, we totally should have an episode on alignments because now I want to ask all sorts of questions about it.
Sure.
So we'll do that. We'll do that in the future for
We
sure.
will do that in the future. Yeah, because I'm like I said, I'm a bastard with alignments as a DM.
Yeah.
If you write it down and that's your alignment, then there is a whole ethical framework and a philosophical outlook, right?
Right.
That you have signed up for as your character,
This is
and
why most people are just neutral good or true neutral.
which I think is a cop out.
Yes and no, but that's
But
alignment episode.
right, we'll save that for the alignment episode.
So We've talked about metagamers, jokers, alpha gamers, wallflowers, spotlight hogs, dealing with harassment, murder hobos, breakers. Are there anything you said tactician earlier, but I think that's relatively
That's a player archetype.
self-explanatory.
That's like the so there are player. So we talked about these problem gamers. Um, there's probably a kinder, gentler episode that we could do that talks about just player archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
like your method actor, your tactician, your min maxer,
Your
your
seduction bard.
wallflower, right? Your seduction, your ego stroker. I'm playing this character because it makes me feel better about some of my own life choices, that kind of thing. It's
We
important.
should all be doing that.
It's important to know how to identify those archetypes, and then as a great DM, know how to feed the right stimulus to the right type of player.
Yeah.
But again, that's that's a player type episode.
Sure.
These are people who are causing trouble at your table.
Right. Which I wanted to address early on, because if you're listening to this and you listen to session episode 1 and you thought, okay, I'm going to find a group. Episode 2, okay, we had our session 0. If this is your first time playing a tabletop role-playing game, I would bet money that you have already run into some issue with at least one of your players. And hopefully some of this serves to illuminate some of the stronger or more common, a few of the most common and a few of the most dangerous types of people.
It's best to nip it early, right?
Definitely.
I mean that's why this show is early in the rotation, is because, just like we said at the top of this, communicate and communicate in a professional, logical manner with as little emotion as you can, right?
Be the computer.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be the computer, but don't get into like yelling matches and name calling and that kind of stuff. Just be like, look, man, we agreed to A, B, and C. You're doing X, Y, and J.
And C.
And C. You got to leave X and Y on the table, and maybe we can talk about this other topic. But you want to engage and move on from this kind of stuff.
Yep, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Ultimately, so I guess in summary, the things that you really want to think about as you are catering an experience for your players and yourself: is everybody having fun? Are your players having fun? Do they feel safe at the table? Do they feel safe with you as the DM? Because if you are creating situations where harassment can occur, you're kind of part of the problem. Are you having fun? Do you feel safe? Are players hey, if my character dies, I'm gonna be so pissed, and he's sitting there with a pencil in his hand and a beer mug in the other, and you don't know what he would do if he does accidentally fall. Like, you want everybody to be having fun, and you want everybody to feel safe. And if that's the case, then keep playing.
So, player versus character. You want the player to feel safe, right? You want the player to have a good time. Characters, they get what they get, baby.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, I'm going to run up and give that xenomorph a hug. He looks sad. Okay. You're in a world of hurt. The
right.
Character's in a world of hurt. Player, yeah, we're having a good time and it's fun.
Exactly.
Right.
If they're not, right? Oh, I'm going to push that other player into the xenomorph so I can run away.
Would your character do that? Yes, he would. Okay.
Well, is that a problem for you as the DM? Like, oh man, I want my players to work together, and I didn't create an encounter where that was encouraged. Probably not in that scenario. Is that a personal problem for one player? I'm just doing that so that other player can't play anymore. Deal with it. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Is it
well,
a
he's going to roll another character. He's going to be back next week, so good job.
Right, so deal with the player, not the character.
Not the character.
And that's an important thing for you, the DM, to separate. You really want your players to not separate the two, which is why sometimes these things happen.
Right.
But if it is creating problems for your group dynamic, solve it and move on to having fun.
Yes. Because that's why you do this.
Right. That's why you play any game. Baseline.
Is to have fun.
Bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy for games. Have fun.
It's not pretzels?
It's not pretzels.
Damn it.
We should do that. We should make a Maslow's hierarchy of games.
Do we know anyone named Maslow?
So Maslow's hierarchy of human needs is a psychology thing.
Yes, I am teasing you. That's why I said pretzels, right? Food.
Yeah. So I think, unless you have any closing thoughts about the people that we've talked about, or the types of people rather, because it's not 100% their fault. That's an entire psychology degree. That couldn't be a podcast, not yet at least.
No, but no, I think we're good. I think we've hit the big high marks, and then the bottom line is fun.
Right.
As much as I would enjoy some pretzels right now, the bottom line is have fun.
Fun and communication. If you've taken nothing else away, it's talk to people at your table. Be a mature adult.
Yes.
Or a mature child. It's how I try to live. So,
right.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to comment on the show or would like to ask a question, please tweet at me on Twitter at JMSkoda5, or you can tweet at Red Hoodie Games. I try to check those as much as I can, so if you have questions for us, feel free to ask them and we will address them on a future show. Please follow, like, comment however you can, however you're viewing all of that. And if you would like to support us anymore, you can do so at patreon.com/Skoda. That's Skoda. That's going to do it for Set the Table episode 3, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Good day.